Welcome to Night Shift Nachos, and as the title of the video and the channel would suggest, this channel is mostly going to be talking about and dealing with shift work, ins and outs, tips and tricks on how to survive, scratch that, how to thrive doing shift work. This video is going to talk a little bit about some statistics on shift work and a little bit of background on myself. So, my name's Agron, and I've been working shift work for the last 10 years plus. I was originally working in a body shop doing paint prep, and detail work, and I was working for $13 an hour. Then I got an opportunity about 10 years ago to start entering into a manufacturing field where the wage was significantly higher. I think I went from 13 to $20 an hour with that single job change. That being said, I remember sitting in the orientation, and they were talking about how the shifts rotate. So basically, you do 3 on, 2 off, 3 on, 3 off, but they're 12-hour shifts, and you'll do 2 weeks of days and 2 weeks of nights. So with that being said, I was very, very apprehensive. My whole working life, I've heard very negative remarks and warnings about working shift work, and especially night shift. And truthfully, some of those are true. So you want to make sure that you're taking precautions if you're coming into a situation where you're going to be working shift work or night shift, that you may need to take a look at before you start that. So a couple statistics here. So 16% of wage and salary employees in the United States work shift work, and that ends up being 27.2 million people in just the US that work shift work. And really what shift work is, to help define this, is people working outside of the norm. So people working outside the 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So this includes a lot of different fields, a lot of different people. And one of the reasons I wanted to make this channel is because there's tons of resources out there, but I think this is a growing concern and a growing number of people as different sectors shift to 24-hour operations. So keeping essential workers going, essential operations running 24/7. For example, somebody that may not be used to working this type of schedule would be a computer programmer who now has to flex their time at nights just to keep these essential operations running. So there's different fields coming into this arena, and I just think it'd be good to have an area or a place to provide some community and just some answers, some statistics, and some background on how to make it work, how to thrive doing it. So a couple tips and tricks that I've found through the years, that may not be as obvious as it seems, is, for one, communication. So this is communication with yourself, holding yourself accountable, making sure that you're able to get to bed on time and get that sleep in, which is super important. There'll be future videos on just that, but also communication with your employer and your family and friends. So your family and friends are your team, and you need to have your team on board to be successful. Now, if you're just sort of like a single person, kind of freshly starting with work, you don't have many familial responsibilities or anything like that, you'll probably be fine. But as soon as you start to develop some of these responsibilities, communication with your counterparts at home, family and friends on what days you can possibly venture out, what days you can't, how to communicate with you while you're at work, and what you need is going to be really make it or break it in my experience. So that's something that you need to have your team on board with before you start a position that you're going to be working shift work, specifically nights, but other shift work as well, longer shifts, because if they're not on board, that's going to really pull you down. You're going to start getting less sleep. Your nutrition is not going to be as balanced. You're not going to get as much exercise, and it's going to be a negative feedback loop that's going to really hinder your performance. And honestly, it's going to be unsafe. And there's going to be situations where you may need to pull out of that position or that employer in general. And I think one of the main things that you can take away from this is your team becomes your life support on positions that work out of the norm. And I think this is true for positions that work in the normal hours too, but it just becomes so much more important as you're working overnight or pulling these longer shifts. So from redlinedigital.com is where I got some of these statistics. This is from Bureau of Labor Statistics. So a couple sectors are manufacturing, transportation utilities, healthcare, hospitality, and leisure. And some of these are these legendary sectors that have typically worked shift work. But like I was saying, now you could be involved with shift work doing more of a white collar type work, such as programming. A couple benefits, though, that people don't really think about. Once you're established, you can start thinking about some things that are actually going to be a benefit in your hands versus working a normal standard 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So typically you have less traffic on your commute to work. You're going in and out at times that aren't rush hour. This is very nice. Okay, now you can have days off during the week, which you wouldn't typically have. So let's say you have a rotating schedule, 2-2-3 type schedule. Now maybe you have that Monday and Tuesday off. Next week you'll have the Wednesday and Thursday. This is beneficial for a lot of reasons. You can make doctor's appointments, dentist appointments without the rush. They always have availability. You can go out to eat at one of your favorite restaurants without the crowd, without the hustle and bustle of the weekend, as long as your family is on board with this too. And I think that's going back to my previous point. If they're on board, it's going to make everything a lot easier for you at the end of the day. But there are those benefits. Now, there's also a benefit in pay typically. So I know I've seen situations in the past when I started that first job that I was telling you guys about, where we did the rotating 2 weeks days, 2 weeks nights, which is tough. So we ended up changing the schedule as a plant so that we would just do straight days and straight nights. So some of the employees, half the technicians on the floor will work days and half would work nights. Now I ended up choosing nights, which was probably a mistake looking back at it. But one of the reasons I did was because of the increase in wage. So they were offering $3 or $4 more an hour, which in my head at the time was worth it. And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But it's something that you're going to have to take into account for your decisions. And it's ultimately up to you. But I do know that there's times when you may not have a choice in your schedule because this is the job that you have and this is what you're using to pay for food for your family and just to make sure they have something to eat, and this is the way that you're making a living. So sometimes you don't have the ultimate choice, and it may feel a little bit tough, but just realize if you keep that positivity and it's working for you, you can keep doing it. keep planning, keep prepping, or you can get yourself a plan to get off of that schedule to maybe get a new job or maybe get a different position in the current position that you're in or the current department that you're in. And there's a lot of different opportunities as long as you're keeping positive, but you need to make sure that you're hitting the basics, such as getting your sleep, getting proper nutrition, making sure your communication is on point and your home life is healthy, because that's ultimately what I've seen with so many of my team members, my coworkers and colleagues, is they'll be struggling with something at home and then they start to put themselves at risk. They start to get less sleep, and it's just definitely that negative feedback loop that really hurts them. I have been thinking about this channel for a long time, and I really believe it's going to be a resource for people and a community that can come together and collaborate, ask questions, get questions answered, and just help each other get through it. These times are definitely interesting. Political climate, financial climate, inflation's been crazy. So we're all just kind of in this boat together, and I really believe this is going to be a helpful resource. So let me know if you guys want to see specific videos. I think I'll try to do one a week, and it'll cover nutrition and communication and just how to live a healthy lifestyle while working night shifts or shift work. It's a little bit more difficult, and I think things are definitely geared towards 9-to-5 employees or citizens. So I think it's just one of those things that even if you look at your pre-programmed alarm clock, it's like, hey, what time are you going to wake up Monday through Friday? And then Saturday, Sunday is completely different. So a lot of us have to work the weekends, and I'm just trying to represent that group and that bunch of people, because I know there's a lot of good, hardworking, smart people that may be in these positions that just need a little bit of help. So just let me know if you'd like to see anything, and thank you. My nachos